Hello, my name is Jessica Ramos, and I'm so excited to share my story and my philosophies of teaching with you today. Ever since I was a student, I've been fascinated by those aha moments. The instance when something confusing suddenly makes sense. As a future high school mathematics teacher, I want to create a classroom where those moments happen every day. For me, mathematics is not just about solving equations or memorizing formulas. It's about discovering patterns, making connections, and understanding how numbers shape the world around us. My goal as a teacher is to make math meaningful, accessible, and even fun. Because when students can see how math relates to their everyday lives, it becomes so much more than just a subject. It becomes a tool for thinking, reasoning, and solving problems creatively.
How do you view your role in the education system, and how might you work to affect positive change within the system?
I see my role in the education system as both an educator and as an advocate for change. Teaching is more than transferring knowledge. It's about shaping thoughtful, capable, and compassionate learners who will become the problem solvers of tomorrow. I want to help build classrooms where every student, no matter their background or learning lifestyle, feeling that they belong and that they are capable of success. To make that happen, I plan to design lessons that are equitable, inclusive, and grounded in level real-world applications. When students see that math applies to their everyday experiences, whether it's budgeting, architecture, or even art, they begin to view it with curiosity rather than fear. I also believe that change begins with collaboration. I see myself as a part of a large team of educators who support one another, share innovative strategies, and growing together. By integrating creativity, technology, and empathy, I hope to contribute to a learning culture that values exploration just as much as it values achievement. Ultimately, my mission is to inspire students not just to learn math, but to use it as a language for understanding the world. Positive change in education to me also means rethinking what success looks like. It's not always a perfect test score. Sometimes it's the quiet students who raises their hands for the first time, or the ones who finally says, "I get it now." Those moments are my why I teach.
What is your educational philosophy? How do you believe students learn best?
My educational philosophy is grounded in the belief that students learn best through active participation, curiosity, and reflection. I align closely with the constructivist principles, the idea that students build knowledge through experience rather than passively receiving information. In my classroom, students will be learning by doing, exploring, discussing, and teaching each other. When they are part of the learning process rather than simply observing it, their understanding deepens in ways that last. I believe in creating a learning environment where mistakes are seen not as failures, but as stepping stones to growth. I remind my students that every failure they make is the evidence that they are thinking and taking risks, which is something to be proud of. I also believe that learning should feel like discovery. When a student finds a pattern or proves a formula on their own, they don't just remember the content, they remember feeling of accomplishment. That's powerful motivation. I also believe that emotional safety and intellectual curiosity go hand in hand. Students are far more willing to take risks when they know their ideas are respected. So I strive to create a classroom that feels welcoming and inclusive, a space where each voice matters. In math, this meaning using multiple approaches to help students see that these are more than one way to reach a solution. For example, when exploring quadratic formulas, students might use graphing technology, physical models, and real-life examples such as calculating the path of a basketball or the arc of a bridge. These experiences turn abstract concept into concrete understanding and show that math is not a distant subject. It's alive and in the world around them.
Share an example lesson that highlights the effective components of a lesson plan and an instructional approach.
Let me share an example of a lesson that really captures the teaching style and philosophy that I have. This lesson is called Designing 3D Containers with Geometric Reasoning. It aligns with standards related to surface area and volume, and the goal is for students to design a small container that holds a specific amount of space using geometric formulas and reasoning. I would begin the lesson by showing students several small 3D printed objects, maybe a cube, a cylinder, and a uniquely shaped heart box. And I'd ask, which of these uses the least materials while holding the most inside space? That question immediately sparks curiosity and conversation. Students start guessing, comparing shapes, and realizing that geometry isn't just about formulas, it's about problem solving. Next, students will work in small teams to design their own container that must hold exactly 125 cubic centimeters, but use the smallest amount of materials as possible. They start by sketching, brainstorming ideas, and applying the formulas for surface area and volume to test their design. Using GeoGebra, they can create digital models, check their measurements, and redesign their ideas. Throughout the process, I circulate around the room asking questions like, how do you know your dimensions are effective? Or what happens to your surface area if you change the height? These conversations push students to think critically rather than just plug in numbers. What's wonderful about this project is that it combines math, creativity, and technology. It challenges students to think critically, collaborate effectively, and apply math to real-world design problems. Once the digital designs are complete, they can print their container on a 3D printer and see their mathematical thinking come to life. At the end of the project, students present their creations in small groups, walking around, explaining their process, what worked and what didn't. The assessment focuses not just on whether the math was correct, but gives them reasoning of creativity and ability to explain themselves clearly. This type of lesson is engaging, memorable, and empowering. It shows students that math is not just something to be learned, it's something that they could use to demonstrate and innovate.
How would you include 3D printing or the Fab Lab in your classroom teaching?
My experience working in the Fab Lab, tools and 3D pens has completely changed the way I was thinking about teaching math. These tools open up opportunities for students to design, experiment, and physically build the concepts they're learning. In my classroom, I plan on using 3D printing and maker-oriented projects as ways for students to bring mathematical ideas to life. For example, they might design geometric sculptures that exploring symmetry, build scale models of architecture, or create prototypes that solve real community problems. These activities allow students to see the direct connection between mathematical reasoning and creativity. When students use tools like the Fab Lab, they learn that math is more than numbers. It is the blueprint for creation. They learn precision, spatial reason, and problem solving in ways that worksheets can never replicate. It also is a great way to connect STEM subjects, showing how math supports art, design, and engineering. What I love the most about the Fab Lab environment is that it encourages persistence. When a design doesn't print correctly or needs adjustments, students learn that integration and parts of innovation. That mindset that it is okay to fail and try again is what I would like to teach my students.
Provide examples of how you will develop students' critical thinking skills, social skills, and emotional intelligence. Provide examples of how your class will be culturally responsive and engaging for students.
Beyond the content, I deeply committed to helping students grow in ways to go beyond academics. Developing critical thinking, social awareness, and emotional intelligence are just as important as mastering mathematical skills. I would like to regularly ask students open-ended questions that encourage deeper reasoning, such as, how do you know this answer makes sense? Or, can you explain another way to solve it? By exploring multiple perspectives, students learn to think critically and evaluate their own reasoning. Collaboration is also central to my classroom. Group projects and peer teaching, giving students the chance to listen, share, and problem solve together. Through these experiences, they develop communication and teamwork skills that prepare them for life beyond school. I make it a point to rotate group roles so that every student participates in leadership, note-taking, and presenting. This helps build confidence, especially in students who might normally be quiet or hesitate to speak up. Equally important, I would like to incorporate reflections. Students write short journal entries about their learning process, what they found challenging, what strategies helped them, and how they felt about their process. This builds self-awareness and resilience, and it helps them see the growth as a journey rather than a destination. I would just like to thank you all for considering me for this application, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.